Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, especially to Doctor and all. We are from Group 3. We're going to present about liberalism. Alright, before we start, I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Nur Patricia Widian binti Ajib Suzali. My metric number is 2025234714. I'm going to present about introduction of liberalism in international relations. Here, introduction of liberalism in international relation. Liberalism is a theory that focuses on cooperation, peace and mutual benefit between countries instead of conflicts. It explains that countries can work together through international institutions, trade and diplomacy to maintain global stability. This theory is influenced by thinkers such as Immanuel Kant, who believe in peace through democracy and cooperation, and Woodrow Wilson, who supported the creation of international organization after World War I. Liberalism also highlights the importance of international institutions like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization in helping countries work together and reduce conflicts. It also talks about economic independence, where countries that trade with each other are less likely to go to the war. However, liberalism is sometimes critical because it is too optimistic. In reality, countries still face power struggle and conflicts in international relations.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Zulaika binti Azmi. My number matrix is 2025216336. Now, I would like to explain the foundational principles of liberalism. These principles are the main ideas that form of the foundation of liberalism. So the first principle is the individual freedom. Liberalism believes that every person should have the freedom to make decisions about their own life without too much control from the government. People should be able to express their religion and choose how they want to live as long as they do not harm to others. For example, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects freedom of speech, religion, and the press. So this allows citizens to openly criticize the government without fear of punishment. And the second principle is the equality before the law. This means that everyone should be treated fairly and equally under the law, regardless of race, religion, gender, or social status. No one should receive special treatment and everyone should have the same legal protection. For a good example is the civil rights movement in the United States, which fought against racial discrimination and worked to ensure equal rights for all citizens. And the third principle is the limited government. Liberalism argues that government's power should be limited because too much power can lead to abuse and threaten individual freedom. The government should focus on maintaining law and order while respecting the rights of citizens. For example, in the United States, the system of checks and balance divides power among the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. So this prevents any one branch from becoming too powerful. And the last principle is the protection of rights. Liberalism believes that government must protect the basic rights of individuals, such as the right to life, liberty, and property. These rights are necessary for people to live freely and safely. For example, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights outlines important rights that should be protected worldwide, including the right to education, freedom of opinion, and the right to live. And in the conclusion, this principle focuses on protecting freedom, equality, and human rights while ensuring the government power remains limited. Okay, so next I will discuss the key thinkers of liberalism and their contribution. So the first thinkers is John Locke. John Locke is often known as the father of liberalism. He introduced the idea of the natural rights, which include life, liberty, and property. He believed that every person is born with these rights and the government's responsibility is to protect them. And he also argued that if a government fails to protect the rights of its citizens, the people have the right to replace the government. So for example, Locke's ideas influence modern democratic system where citizens can vote and choose their leaders through elections. And the second thinkers is the Montesquieu. Montesquieu introduced the concept of separation of power, and he believed that government power should be divided into three branches, which is the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. So this division helped prevent the abuse of power because each branch can monitor and limit the action of the others. For example, many democratic countries today use this system to ensure that no single institution has complete control over the government. The third thinker is Adam Smith. Adam Smith is famous for his contribution to economic liberalism. He supported the idea of a free market where business and individual can make economic decisions with limited government interference. And he believed that economic freedom encourage competition, increase productivity, and also support economic growth. For example, many capitalist countries allow business to compete freely, which often leads to innovation and better product and also economic development. And the last thinker is John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill strongly supported individual freedom and freedom of speech. He believed that people should be allowed to express their opinions freely as long as their action do not harm to others. And Mill also supported equality and individual rights in society. For example, many democratic countries today have laws that protect freedom of speech, allowing citizens to share their opinions without fear of punishment. And overall, these thinkers made important contribution to liberalism. Their ideas continue to influence modern democracy, human rights, and economic system around the world. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nur Aminin Aisyah binti Irfan and my matrix number is 2025424948. Now, I will move on to the core concepts of liberalism. These are the main ideas that help us understand how liberalism works in politics and society. The first concept is individual freedom. This means every person should have the right to make their own choices about how to live, as long as those choices do not harm the rights of other people. In liberalism, the individual is placed at the center of politics, so freedom of speech, belief, and movement are all important. The second concept is human rights. Liberalism believes that all human beings have basic rights simply because they are human. These rights include the right to life, liberty, and security. The state is responsible for protecting these rights through constitutions, laws, and independent courts. The third concept is rule of law. This means nobody is above the law, not even government leaders. Laws must be fair, clear, and applied equally to everyone. This is important because it limits arbitrary power and helps make the government accountable. The last concept is pluralism and tolerance. Liberalism recognizes that society is made up of many different beliefs, cultures, and political views. Instead of forcing everyone to think the same way, liberalism encourages people to respect differences and accept peaceful disagreement. As long as people do not violate the rights of others, different opinions and lifestyles should be tolerated. These core concepts show that liberalism values freedom, equality, protection of rights, and respect for diversity.
Now, I'm going to explain about the strength of liberalism in international relations. First, liberalism promotes cooperation among states. It's believed countries can solve problems through diplomacy, negotiation, and internal organization, like the United Nations instead of the world. For example, the United Nations help in peacekeeping mission in countries like Lebanon and Sudan to reduce conflicts and violence. Second, liberalism encourages peace through democracy. It suggests that democratic countries are most peaceful because they focus on discussion, accountability, and negotiation. For example, countries like United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan usually have stable and peaceful relations because they share democratic values. Third, liberalism support economic interdependence. When countries trade with each other, they depend on one another. So, war become less beneficial because it can harm their economic. For example, China and the United States still maintain strong trade relations even though they have political differences. Lastly, liberalism is very relevant in era of globalization. It includes the role of non-state actors such as multinational company, NGO, and international organizations in global politics. For example, companies like Apple and Microsoft influence the global economy through trade and technology. So, liberalism help explain how cooperation, democracy, trade, and globalization contribute to stability in international relations.
I will talk about the weaknesses of liberalism. The first weakness is that liberalism can be too idealistic. It assumes that countries will work together through international institutions and focus on shared benefit. In reality, countries often put their own interests first. Power and national interests can become more important than cooperation. This can be seen in the failure of the League of the Nations, where cooperation was not enough to prevent conflict. The second weakness is that liberalism ignores power dynamic. It focuses more on cooperation and international rules while giving less attention to military and economic power. Even just as US dominance after the Cold War are sometimes viewed as a sign of progress. However, this may overlook how some non-liberal countries can take advantage of liberal system for their own benefit. Another weakness is that liberalism fails on inequality. Free market and economic interdependence can create growth, but they can also increase inequality within or between countries. This can lead to desertifications and dependence. At the same time, powerful countries often have a greater influence in international institutions which can maintain these inequalities. Last weaknesses is that liberalism is often seen as a Europe-centric and interventionist. It promotes democracy, human rights, and international law, but these ideas are mainly based on a Western value. Sometimes these values are used to justify interventions in other countries without fully considering their culture, history, and experience. As a result, non-Western perspectives may not receive enough attention. Although liberalism encourages cooperation and international institutions, it can be too idealistic, give less attention to power differences, fail to address inequality, and focus too much on Western ideas.
Next is the application exercise. For this part, I will apply liberalism to a real-world example in Malaysia, which is the Bersih rallies. Bersih is a civil society movement that called for free and fair elections, transparency, and accountability in government. People joined peaceful rallies to express their political views and demand electoral reform. This is a good example of liberalism because it shows that citizens have the right to participate in politics, speak freely, and push for change without using violence. From a liberal perspective, this situation reflects individual freedom because people are allowed to express their opinions and criticize the government. It also reflects human rights because freedom of speech and political participation are protected values in a liberal system. In addition, it shows the rule of law because citizens expect the government to follow fair and legal procedures. Finally, it shows pluralism and tolerance since people with different political views are able to express their opinions peacefully. Liberalism supports the idea that change should happen through peaceful participation, dialogue, and legal processes rather than conflict. In this way, the Bersih movement demonstrates how liberal principles work in a real political context. It shows that citizens can play an active role in improving democracy while still respecting law and order.
To conclude our topic, liberalism focuses on peace, cooperation, and freedom. It believes that countries can achieve better outcomes by working together through international institutions, trade, and democratic value. Liberalism also highlights the importance of democracy and economic interdependence. When countries check and cooperate with each other, they can build stronger relationships and create mutual benefit. In Malaysia, the Bersih movement is an example of a liberalism in practice. Citizens peacefully express their views and call for fair election, transparency, and accountability through democratic participation. Overall, liberalism presents an approach that encourages cooperation, peaceful solutions, and active citizen involvement. At the same time, country and society still face challenges that require continuous effort and collaboration address. That's all for us. Thank you.